Welcome to this overview of leaves of absence. I'm Cami Rodriguez, a leave coordinator for staff employees with the Leaves and Benefits Office. Also joining us is Tess Waldo, benefits analyst and operations coordinator who can assist with benefits questions, including disability benefits.
I do want to reiterate what Tess mentioned earlier is that this is being recorded. So if you do have some questions regarding any medical, please keep in mind that we do not need specifics or want specifics. Additionally, I do want to mention that our benefits director is in attendance. That's Joyce Tuttle, and my two colleagues, Barbara Bullard and Michael Bautista. So if you have a question during the presentation and you put it in the chat, they're going to do their best to answer as we go. So, leave of absence overview. Let's take a look at what we will be looking at today. We will be looking at the various type of leaves that are offered, job protected leaves, as well as a few smaller type leaves that are not necessarily job protected but available to the employee. So we'll be looking at the FMLA, which is the Family Medical Leave Act, the CFRA, which is the California Family Rights Act, the California Pregnancy Disability Leave. Each one of these has their own eligibility requirements that must be met in order to be able to access them. One critical piece of a leave is the paid versus unpaid portion. Each leave has two components. One is a job protection component or just time away component. And the second piece is how will you be paid for your time away? It's something that is, I'm sure, always thought of, but what does that really look like? Then we'll look at specifically income replacement options. And then lastly, how does this affect your benefits that you would like to have during your leave? So some critical pieces of information. Okay, let's look at the Family Medical Leave Act, as well as the California Family Rights Act. A leave of absence, if I can define this for you, is a period of time in which an employee is permitted to take time off from work, usually for a reason such as medical issues, pregnancy, and family-related needs, and during which the employee remains employed. All leaves are available to full and part-time employees. I know we've had a couple of limited employees that occasionally might need to tap into that. So those might not fall under job protected leaves, but we can look at those later on. Leaves are not a UC policy covered program, but federal and state laws. So we are here, your leave coordinators, to actually help walk the employee through these laws and help you manage them in a way that benefits you, the UC, your department, and to follow regulations and make sure that everybody is complying as they should. So the FML is a federal leave. The CFRA is a state leave, and the PDL is also a state leave. So what is provided within these leaves? Each leave provides, well, let's look at, not each leave, but the FML and the CFRA allow 12 weeks of job protected time each year. And that's calendar year. So that means each January, these balances reset. So if you've used some time in the previous year, let's say 2024, and you're looking to potentially take a second leave or an additional leave in 2025 for yourself or a family member, those 12 weeks replenish. They may be used for yourself and a family member. I'm trying to think if there's any other. We'll get into the specifics of what a family member is here in a second. What does it do for you and what does it offer? It is job protected time away. That means that while you're gone, your job is held and you will be reinstated to the same or an equivalent position upon your return to work. So that's why it can be very critical for an employee to want to place themselves, or at least make it known to your leave coordinator, that you need to take time away, because it does protect your job. Again, repeating that this is for yourself or a family member. The leave can be continuous, so blocks of time of 5 days or more, starting at 5 days or more. They can be intermittent. What would intermittent look like? Intermittent would be increments of time defined through frequency and duration. So that means, for example, an employee might need to set time up for appointments that occur weekly or monthly, where you might need to take, 3 hours a day, twice a week, 3 hours a day, twice a month. But you can set that up under these two different leaves to protect your time away. One key piece of information regarding these leaves, and we looked at what we would be discussing later on, is these leaves are unpaid. That means that we need to now look at what are your income replacement options. Is that a regular paycheck would not be generated if you are taking time away and you do not have anything set up as an income replacement. But we do have options available. Going back to looking at a leave for yourself, a physical leave is usually one that is requested, but we also, the law allows for anyone with mental health to take a leave of absence as well. What are some shared reasons, eligibility under the FML and CFRA? So an employee must meet certain requirements in order to be eligible for a leave of absence. The first one is 12 months of employment with UC. This changes from employer to employer, but if you're with UC, it is 12 months of consecutive employment. And if you've transferred from another campus, if you transfer internally from another department, it all goes back to your date of hire. The next piece in which an employee needs in order to meet the eligibility is to have worked 1,250 hours during the 12-month period in which you would be taking a leave of absence. 1,250 hours worked is actually hours worked. If we're looking at, let's say you took a 2-week vacation, or you had to take some sick time here and there, those are not actual hours worked. So we look at days that you actually reported to work and actually worked, if that makes sense. So for full-time employees to reach the 1,250 hours, it usually takes about 6 months within a year. If you are part-time, that would take you about 1 year to get to the 1,250 hours worked. Once you've reached both of those requirements, then you would be eligible for the FML and CFRA job protected leaves. And again, here's a note: actual time worked does not include vacation, sick leave, personal leave, holidays, and any time off while on pay status. To this slide, sorry, it was blank. So some reasons in which someone would take a leave of absence: an employee's own serious health condition. And I mentioned earlier that we would be looking at someone who might have a physical condition, an ongoing condition, someone who might have a mental health condition that they're seeking to treat. And we often have individuals who are on a workers' comp that can pair that with job protected time. The second shared reason under both laws would be to care for a family member. So that would include your spouse, domestic partner, children, parent, sibling, grandparent, anyone with a serious health condition. The third would be birth and care of an employee's newborn. So this is generally talking about pregnancy and baby bonding. The placement and care of an employee's adopted or foster child, that would be under the bonding piece of these laws. And then we have military family leave and military caregiver leave. Okay, moving on. Reasons specific to a leave of absence. So we talked about, the FML and the CFRA. They do have each one of these protections that don't apply to both leaves. So right now, up until this point, anything that I've informed you of under the FML and CFRA are shared reasons for a leave. But there are reasons under the FML that do not qualify under the CFRA leave, and that is most importantly the pregnancy disability leave. The CFRA is a state law that actually enhances what is available under the federal law, and that is including a parent-in-law. So if we go back to the prior slide and we look, we see that parents are included under the FML, but not a parent-in-law. The other reason that CFRA provides that FML does not is a designated person. And that is one who is related by blood, such as an employee's aunt, uncle, or cousin, or it can be a person who is like a family member. It could be a best friend, unmarried partner, but someone who they feel they have a relationship that mirrors that of a family member. Okay, I'll pause right there. Anything I need to, look at or touch upon? We're good?
Tammy,
Yeah.
can I just clarify? I mean, I
Yeah.
see it on the screen here, but the way it's worded, I'm not sure that if it's correct, is that
Okay.
with FML, you're saying specific reason to leave. FML pregnancy does count, but I thought you said it does not. I just want to
Oh, I'm
clarify that.
sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
pregnancy is under the FML,
Yeah.
but not under the CFRA. CFRA
Yes.
only provides for baby bonding.
Okay. I might have misheard it. I just wanted to
Okay.
clarify in case it was spoke wrong.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looking at the pregnancy disability leave, the pregnancy disability leave provides up to 4 months of job protected time away. So we looked at the FML and CFRA, which are 12 weeks each. Now we are looking at the PDL, and that is up to 4 months of job protected leave. There are no eligibility requirements to be met under this leave. It is something that is available upon notice to the employer or upon date of hire and with the organization. One thing I want to mention about the 4 months of job protected leave is that it can be used either prior to the birth or post-birth. And so if we look at some of the things that might come up, reasons that might come up in need of a pregnancy disability leave that might happen before the birth, we could be looking at prenatal care, severe morning sickness, bed rest. The employee works with their doctor to determine when that might occur. So we've seen anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days, or sometimes months before the employee is due to give birth. So it's all very determined on each employee and their pregnancy. Post-birth, this would include the actual childbirth, recovering from childbirth, and more. So if we're looking at it as a post-birth only, it typically is available, the pregnancy disability leave, for 6 weeks under a natural birth and up to 8 weeks under a cesarean. Now, if there are complications within the pregnancy and additional time off is needed, and the 4 months combined have not been exhausted, then the employee has the ability to take additional time through the pregnancy disability leave in the post-birth. This leave, like the CFRA and FML, is also unpaid, but there are income replacements that we will discuss, and those typically look like a disability claim or a paid family leave through UC, which is called the PFCB, and we will get to that in a little bit. Common leave requests. So an employee might need surgery, treatments, ongoing treatments, hospitalization, chronic conditions, mental health. Caring for an ill or injured family member, those could be we could apply the same reasons under the caring for an ill or injured family member. We also have pregnancy as one of our top common leave requests, as well as parental bonding and workers' compensation. Okay, moving on. Running leaves concurrently. So I mentioned that the FML and CFRA are federal and state leaves. And because those offer nearly identical reasons in which an employee can take time off, they are run together. That they call it running the leaves concurrently. And that is for not only yourself, but if you're asking for a leave for yourself, but for a family member. There are a few exceptions, but in general, these leaves will be run concurrently. And that really is because an employee has 12 weeks of available time, but if we run them consecutively, we're now looking at 24 weeks. And the intent of the law is to provide 12 weeks of protected time off. But beyond that, UC and the represented employees, as well as the 99, have additional options in which they can extend their leave. So that is why running a leave concurrently under the job protected leave does get brought together so that we can make sure that we're using the leave effectively and then using our leave extensions appropriately. Then looking at the pregnancy disability leave, as mentioned, that pairs with the family medical leave because it's the employee's own medical condition. So if you're looking at, it's the pregnancy, birth-related conditions, it's applying to the individual themselves and not the child. So that is why the PDL and the FML are run together. Okay, so how do we look at our income replacement how do we look at being paid while we are taking this time off? So under the CFRA, FML, and PDL, as mentioned, these are unpaid leaves, but there are several options available to the employee in how they might pay themselves. The first one, if you can gather, is using sick or vacation time. Some employees have the option for compensatory time, and that can be used during a leave. The third would be the UC's Pay Family Care and Bonding, also known as the PFCB. There's the disability insurance, and then we have the cat leave donations. If an employee is not able to access or utilize any of the pay options, then we look at a disability insurance claim. That one, I see it's sitting in both locations. That one's a bit of a tricky one. You have to be on unpaid status in order to collect on your disability insurance. So it pays you, but you also need to be on an unpaid status to pay you. And then at times there might not be any options and we are looking at leave no pay. So using your sick and vacation accruals. This is available to all 99 employees as well as represented employees. And I want to specifically call out that utilizing your accruals may or shall be a requirement of your represented collective bargaining agreement. And so that means, let's say, for instance, you're a CX represented employee. I believe that one requires you, if you are out on a leave for yourself, that you must or shall use your sick accruals. So you may want to hold on to those, but then there are times when your collective bargaining agreement will not allow you to do so. So each time you are looking to take a leave, your leave coordinator will work with you to advise you on what your collective bargaining agreement requires you to do. Okay. Now we're looking at the pay for family care and bonding. This is a income replacement specific to UC. It is a comparable or better piece of the California paid family leave. So we have the California paid family leave that is available to some employees who have been with us less than 18 months, but then anyone looking to have met the eligibility requirements for the PFCB can use this. So what is the PFCB? It's a pay option that provides income replacement for up to 100% of their eligible earnings for 8 work weeks per calendar year. So it's pretty generous income replacement. To qualify for the PFCB, you must be FML or CFRA available. So really what that means is PFCB needs to be anchored to one or both of these type of job protected leaves. Let's see. It must be taken in blocks of 1 week or more. So it's almost in essence a continuous. It needs to be paired with a continuous leave. So, and it could be anywhere from 5 days to 7 days, but anything beyond 5 days is a requirement. Let's see. If you have worked for the UC system for less than 18 months, you may be eligible for the California paid family leave. When you speak with your leave coordinator, they'll walk you through what is the most beneficial income replacement to your leave at that time. Okay.
Thank you. So the CFRA minimum of 1 week being 5 days, but
Correct.
can it go for 12 days, 13 days, or does it have
Yes,
to be increments of 5 days?
a minimum of 5 days.
Okay. Okay.
And those can be broken up throughout the year in blocks of time. So someone might take 12 days, and then whatever the difference is from the 8 weeks, they can then go back and use the remaining time throughout the year. So you can kind of, if you need to use 2 weeks in the spring, 3 weeks in the summer, a few more weeks in the fall, that's how you could break it up. Some employees need to use all of the 8 weeks in one time, at one time. And then if you do that at the beginning of the year, then you're waiting until the following year to be able to access this again. You still have other income replacement options, but obviously this one, is generous, and if you can, you would want to be sort of strategic about how you use it.
And then the pay under the PFCB does not require that accruals are exhausted before the 100% pay kicks in. People can preserve
Correct.
accruals and
Yes.
still be paid. Okay.
Yes. Very
Thank you.
good. Thank you. Okay, so then another form of income replacement is disability insurance, and this is offered through Lincoln Financial. I want to make it clear that UC does not participate in the California State Disability Insurance. So Lincoln Financial they supply the disability insurance to the UC system. So looking at the different options within disability, we have the basic, and that is an $800 a month maximum to the employee who has a disability claim. UC automatically enrolls the employee into the plan upon hire. Short-term disability is offered for the time from the date the employee goes out on a disability with a 2-week waiting period. That's not mentioned, but there is a standard 2-week waiting period or 14 calendar day waiting period up to 6 months. This is a voluntary buy-up through Lincoln Financial. So we want to make it very clear this is not as it is with the state where it's available to all employees through a payroll deduction. This is a voluntary buy-up. Enrollment occurs for this voluntary buy-up within the first 31 days of hire. So if you've missed the date, it can be a bit of a challenge to get enrolled within this. So that means employees going out on a leave and do not have the short-term disability are left with the basic of the 800. If an employee has elected the short-term disability and pays into it each month, When combined with the basic, you can earn up to 60% of your earnings for a total of for no more than 15,000 a month. Whoops. If you need to be on a long-term leave of absence and you want to pair that with long-term disability, that would begin at the 6-month mark. And that would also need to be an election. It's a voluntary buy-up. If you do not have that, I believe benefits would, I don't know if they inform you about the Social Security, but we would look at Social Security as a long-term replacement.
Yeah, Cammy, just to speak on that. So usually when a person goes into the long-term category and is considering if they're eligible for UCRP disability conversation, if the benefits office is called, there is a conversation about, the individual maybe applying for Social Security disability at the same time. And that's if they're in the long-term stage, and also if they're thinking about applying for UCRP disability.
So we've gone through your income replacement options, and now we're going to take a look at what is the very basic leave process. We're looking to have a follow-up presentation in depth about the leave process. This is an overview of really what a leave of absence is. If you need to initiate a leave, we now have what is a service through a portal where an employee can go and select that or inform the portal that they have questions regarding the leave of absence, and you can start one through there. We're always looking at ways in which we can shorten our communication time with the employee and get you started as soon as possible. We'll be providing the link to that after this presentation. The leave team now has a listserv general box in which you can email, and I just noticed the email should not include, the S, so I'll update that and send that out. But if you email our general leave box, there are several pair of eyes that are on that inbox at any given time throughout the day, and that can take a look at your leave and start working with you. Or you can reach out directly to your leave coordinator, which can be done through the Locate Your Team if you are uncertain about who your leave coordinator is. And I have the links available in the slide for both the portal and the Locate Your Team. So if you're not sure, you can always go there and initiate the leave on your own or reach out to your leave coordinator to get the process going. There are a couple of pieces of paperwork that need to be completed in order to initiate your leave and get it official. One of them is the leave of absence request form, and basically it is a form that informs us, the leave coordinator, that you are looking to take a leave and that we are not generating that leave for you, but you came to us and asked for that leave. The other one is to have the leave medically certified, depending on the condition. Some leaves, if it's a personal leave and it's a non-medical, will not require that, but it does require your department's approval on personal leaves, and we'll get to that in a minute. So those are the two critical pieces within the leave process that are required. We do send out a leave packet that provides you with a whole host of information. It is always best to walk or go through all of that information, but we understand that it is a lot of information at once to kind of go through and understand. So the leave coordinator will schedule a consultation with you and walk you through your leave options and make sure that you're set up appropriately for your need with the right leave of absence, leave type, and your pay options, and how that might affect your benefits, which we'll look at as well. And then the return to work. Employees who are out on a leave for themselves, for a medical reason, we do require a return to work form. This informs us of, are there any restrictions? Are you coming back with any needs for modified duties? potentially schedules that need to be updated for a short period of time, or changes to your work schedule. So that's why it's critical to have the return to work. Looking at the leave process and the employee's rights and responsibilities. So I kind of want to go through these one by one, but we won't get too much in the weeds. So things to keep in mind: an employee has the right to privacy. Their medical condition and records are confidential. Obviously, the leave coordinator will have access to that information, but the department will not see any of your medical information. But we, as the leave coordinator, do need that in order to make determinations. And even, I would say, the medical certification does not have to provide details of your condition. That just that you have a condition that is being treated or that you are under the care of a doctor is usually sufficient. When possible, we do ask that employees provide a 30-day notice. Obviously, that is not always possible. So when that is not possible, as soon as possible that you can provide us with a notice is expected. We've had situations, though, where, an employee goes out and has no means to communicate with us. So sometimes it might be a week or two after the fact. It does not mean that they're not eligible. It means that we will have to work retroactively. The expectation is that when an employee goes out on a leave, they have 15 calendar days in which to provide us with the medical documentation. That is a time in which the law has determined is sufficient enough time to obtain that documentation. If additional time is needed, then the employee has the responsibility of informing the leave coordinator so that we can manage how much longer the employee needs in which the certification will be coming. There is an obligation to continue to make payments, premium payments on your benefits. And that I will talk about a little bit more later on. Additional responsibilities: healthcare coverage. So, this is another kind of financial piece to the leave. If you're not generating a paycheck, or you're generating a paycheck that is paying you less than the 100% of your typical pay, it does become challenging in keeping up with those premium payments. So at that time, it's always good to work with UC Path, and I'll talk about that in a few slides down about how UC Path manages the premium payments when an employee is not able to make them. The employee must provide sufficient information to determine whether the leave is FML or CFRA. So sometimes we are provided documents, medical notes that are not clear. The dates are not clear, the start and end dates. Perhaps, we don't need to know condition. It's usually start and end dates, or we're not really certain if it's medical related. We have the option, the employer does have the option to circle back with the employee and ask for clarity. So that might have the employee going back and working with their doctor to update their medical note for the clarity of the leave coordinator as well as the department. Our obligation to the employee is that within 5 business days of the request for a leave of absence, we inform the employee if they've been approved or not. And usually that comes with the designation notice, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. Anytime you're out on an FML or CFRA, those days are counted against your leave entitlement. So if you have 12 weeks, each time we apply the day itself, whether it is paid or unpaid, it does reduce the amount of hours and days that you have available or left within your 12 weeks. You have the right to a reinstatement of the same or equivalent job. And if that job is not available, then a comparable one is determined and provided. What is a designation notice? A designation notice is a document that the leave coordinator provides to the employee as well as the department to inform them of, is this a continuous leave, an intermittent leave? If it's an intermittent leave, what is the frequency and duration? Dates, start and end dates. It does not provide any medical information other than the type of leave that the employee will be taking. This is done so that the department can monitor timesheets. The leave coordinator can monitor timesheets that we have on record, the amount of time an employee can take. If the employee takes less than the time that is available, that is fine, but there have been times when an employee on perhaps an intermittent leave takes more time than what was documented, and so we use that information to have a conversation with the employee and ask them to speak with their doctor about an updated medical note that provides them with the right amount of time in which they need so that we have that on file. Other types of leaves and leave extensions. So each job protected leave can turn into an extended leave, or an employee who does not qualify for a job protected leave may qualify for a medical leave. So when we look at a medical leaves are for represented staff only. They can be due to work-related or non-work-related illnesses or injuries. It's applied when you have exhausted your 12 weeks or perhaps not met the eligibility requirements of an FML. And when it comes to the pregnancy disability leave, if the employee has exhausted their PDL, then they may be eligible for a medical leave. Supplemental leaves are a leave extension specific to 99 employees who have exhausted their FML entitlements. So it is supplemental is sort of a tricky naming for this because it's really a leave extension of a medical leave, except under the 99 agreement, it is labeled supplemental FML, but it is in essence a medical leave. And then we have personal leaves. Personal leaves are available to both 99 and represented staff. These leaves require department approval. That is because they are not job protected, and oftentimes a personal leave is not necessarily for a medical reason. It could be, the employee needs to take care of some administrative needs in their life and needs to take time off, or perhaps it is a medical leave, but it typically comes at the tail end after an employee has exhausted job protected leaves, extensions, and personal leaves. Let's see.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So for disability or supplemental, is there an amount of time? What's the amount of time that the extension is? Or are you going to go into that?
Well, each one, let's just say each one is a minimum of 12 weeks. Some go up to 6 months. It all depends on if you're a 99 or a represented employee. So if I showed you we have a little kind of working cheat sheet that has all of that. So depending on the employee we're speaking to, we will let them know what their collective bargaining agreement allows them. One thing I did not add here that sort of will go outside of the scope of work we do is a reasonable accommodation. It can be available, and a reasonable accommodation might just be an extended leave of absence. So there is definitely time out there for an employee who really needs it. Okay. Return to work. When an employee is ready to return to work, we do like to hear from them. Specifically those that are out on medical leaves for themselves. We do have employees that go out on a family leave, and yes, we would like to know if you're returning, but the returning does not impact if it's for a family member, a family need, any work restrictions, modified duties, they're generally returning to work at full capacity. When it comes to an employee who's been out for their own illness, we do require a return to work form. Ooh, misspelled that. And that is provided in the leave of absence packet. And that is where the employee really takes the opportunity to work with their doctor on any work restrictions they might have upon returning to work or modified duties they might need. These are for short periods of time. If we are looking at something that goes beyond a few weeks, a couple of months, we look at handing the employee over to disability management, who can do a much thorough look at what are the needs, performing an in-depth interactive process. But for returning from a leave of absence that might just have something for a few weeks, this is where the requirement of a return to work form is needed and required for them to return at least a week before, so that the coordinator and the department can take a look at what are these restrictions and can they be accommodated. Benefits during leave. So I mentioned this before, so that it becomes a bit of a challenge. If an employee is on a paid leave status, so they're generating some type of income, that is a check coming. So there's some type of income coming from their pay with UC outside of the disability. Benefit premiums will be deducted from those paychecks. If you are on a paid status through, or you're collecting disability, that's coming from Lincoln Financial. And if you think about it, there's no way for UC to kind of grab onto those benefit premiums. So that is why during your time away, it is critical that you consider and remain in touch with UC Path, who will manage any benefit premiums outside of your paycheck to keep the payments coming. During the FML, I'll just quickly go through these. During FML time off, medical, dental, and vision coverage continues for up to the 12 weeks and potentially more. If it is a medical condition and you remain out on a medical disability leave, that does continue. So 12 weeks is the minimum. There is a maximum, but that's all depending on each particular employee. Coverage for these plans also continues while an employee has time off for baby bonding. So again, with the PFCB option that's available, that is an income replacement. And so that's how that one works with keeping those benefit premiums paid. Once your FML coverage expires, it is the employee's responsibility to pay the full cost of the benefits. That includes not just the employee contribution piece, but the employer contribution. So your benefit premiums will increase. And that is where the employee speaking with UC Path and staying in communication with them is always critical. I think that's enough on the benefits piece. I mean, we do have a benefits department that is very well versed, but UC Path is the one that manages this during your time away. So then looking at resources, I've put in the slide, there are many resources out there that you may want to read. It's reading material. So the UC system has put together what is called a Family Medical Leave Act sheet. We have the pregnancy, newborn, child, and adopted cheat sheet. These are all kind of like fact sheets, little cheat sheets. The PFCB that will provide you with more information. There's your guide to UC disability. And then there are a couple of fact sheets available on a leave of absence with pay and a leave of absence without pay that is also available to you to read. Okay. Questions?
Cami,
Yeah.
those publications are available. I'm wondering if so you're speaking of the fact sheets, the
Yeah.
printouts. So I'm going to be sending a follow-up email to you
Yeah.
all. I will go ahead and include these fact sheets
Yes.
for you
Oh,
so
yeah.
that so that you'll have that on hand. Now
Okay.
just remember, I'll be providing you the 2025 version. They usually update these fact sheets every year. I'm not so I will make sure to provide you the most recent version of these forms, but you will have it in hand. These forms are always provided or available from the UC Net website. That's ucnet.universityofcalifornia.edu. But after today's presentation, along with the recording and such, I'll go ahead and attach that to the email as well. During the time that they were out, UC Path sent billing to their home. So they actually print out a bill each month. Unfortunately, if the employee cannot pay their bill and it's been over 3 months, they actually cancel benefits. So it's really important that employees refer to their billing. There are situations where the consolidated billing hasn't caught up quite yet and a person separates and they haven't paid, a couple months back. UC Path will actually continue to pursue that even if a person is separated. So they will send the billing, and if, just like any other type of bill, if a person doesn't pay a bill, they go forward from there and might even go to collections. So it's really essential to remember that these bills come once a month and to pay attention to them and take action on them. And like Cami said, to remain in communication with UC Path if there's any issues, if there's a payment plan that's needed, they are, willing to walk that employee through the process.